Are you ready for some chill out malarkey? Well, I could certainly do with some, so grab yourself a hot dog or a cold cat and a nice cozy blankie. Hey there Space Cats, it's me Jules, and this week I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, so what I need is a nice afternoon of illustrating. You might know that I've been making fairy tale videos this year, and this week it's the turn of Kitten in Slippers. Oh no, hang on, it's not that, it's Cat in Moccasins. No, oh crikey, I can't remember what it's called. Never mind, it'll come to me. Yeah, alright, it's Puss in Boots. So this week, instead of me telling you the story of Puss in Boots, I am going to just have a little chat about what's going on in the illustration and also answer a few questions that frequently come up. So first of all, I'm just putting down here a very pale wash of blue and then going around the edge because I wanted the edges of the picture to stand out a bit. So I'm just going around the edges with a bit more colour. And I'm going to do the same thing with the grass as well that the cat is standing on. So the first question that I get asked very often is, how do I get published? Well, now that is quite a long answer to try and address in a short video, and what I would say to you is I have made loads of videos. If you go to my playlist that's called Books and Publishing, you'll find loads of different videos on the sort of thing that you will need to know if you want to get published. The first thing that you really need to consider is, are you going to be self-publishing or indie publishing, or are you going to be going down that traditional route of using a publishing company? And each have their merits. If you're going to be self-publishing, then you have a lot more control over your work, but it does mean that you're going to be responsible for things like distribution and your invoicing, and you really have to treat it like a small business. If you want to try and get yourself a publishing contract with a company, then you're still going to be responsible for some of those things. Publishing houses like you to have a good online presence, social presence, and that means that you'll need to be posting tweets or photographs on Instagram about the projects that you're working on with the company. It's not just a question of sending them your manuscript or your dummy book and then just sitting back and waiting for the royalties to roll in. It's worth noting that it's not all that easy to get published using a traditional publisher. There is a lot of competition out there, and there's a lot of people to be up against. They receive a lot of submissions every day. You need to, first of all, check out whether or not they are actually accepting submissions at all, and then also how they would like to receive them. The next question is, I'm making a picture book but I can't draw. I'm not at all artistic, I can't illustrate. What can I do? Well, there's lots of other illustrators out there. You can always engage with somebody whose work you like. But if you don't want to do that, there are other ways of making images. Perhaps you could use photographs or collage, or if you've got a young person in your family that you'd like to work with, then maybe you could have some children's drawings too. I do have a video on what to do if you're not an illustrator but you want to make a picture book, and I'll link it up here in the cards. Sometimes I get asked, what is that clear stuff that you're putting on the paper? Well, believe it or not, it's just water. Sometimes I like to put water down on my watercolour paper first and then drop colour into it, and other times I do it the other way around. I put some fairly dry pigment down and then drop water into it. It really just depends on what sort of texture I'm after and how I feel it goes best for that particular part of the picture. Here's another question. Do you really think that art is good for you? And my answer to that is yes. Quite simply, I really do think that. I think that it's really good for your mental health and your emotional health and spiritual health. And if you're a very physical artist, probably good for your physical health too. And I've had times in my life when things have been quite tough, or I've been in some sort of crisis, and art has been a real grounding force for me. The thing that I tend to do if I'm suffering from sort of anxiety or worries is to do observational drawing, and that might be something I physically got in front of me, like some fruit or something like that, or it might be a picture of a bird or a cat or a dog or something, and I try and make it look as realistic as possible. So if it's got fur, I try and make the fur look as realistic and photographic as I can in my particular style and skill. But it might be something completely different for you. It's just a question of making a mark on something with something else. My brother, for example, he used to use shoe polish to paint with and a knife. But it could be, you might be making mud pies or something. It doesn't really matter so long as you are doing something creative with your time. And I truly believe that that is extremely helpful in times of stress. If you're really focusing on something, then your mind hasn't got the space to be worrying or fretting about anything else. The other thing that I quite like to do in these times is watch other people painting and drawing, because I find that quite a stress reliever too. So hopefully you're finding this very calming today. One question that I get asked by children when I go around to see them in schools or libraries is, how long does it take you to write and make a book? And the answer that I often give is, my first book took me 20 years, but it wasn't 20 years of consistently working on it. I did happen to have 2 children and get married in the meantime, that book started off at university and ended up as Vincent and the Vampires, which was my first book. But subsequent to that, my books normally take me around about 9 months to make a picture book. 6 if I'm working on it full time. The book I'm working on at the moment is called Vincent and the Mermaid. It's a sequel to Vincent and the Vampires, 10 years on, or 12 years on now, from when I first had that published. And that is taking me a lot longer because it is a 100-page book instead of it being a 32-page book. Well, there we are. I've pretty much come to the end of this Puss in Boots drawing. Now, if you are a cat person, a dog person, or something in between person, and you are the servant of one of your pets, then do give them a name check in the comments below. And give me a thumbs up if you like the drawing. So that's it. I will see you next week. Nanu nanu. If you'd like further artist tutorials, I have a variety of short courses that will help you. There are real-time sessions looking at painting, drawing and marker pens, among others. And if you're keen on producing your own book, there is a more in-depth course on what you need to know about self-publishing a book with illustrations. That covers making key decisions, how to make layouts and dummy books, rhythm and pacing, as well as several tutorials on illustrating a book and a look at the tech. You can either hop over to my website or join me on Patreon for more information. Go on, give it a go!